Is it all right? Very good. Got it. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh from Bandung, West Java. I'm happy to be in touch with you again after the Lebaran holiday. Minal Aidin wal Faizin, maaf lahir batin, of course, and very happy. What we call Eid Mubarak in English, but it's of course Idul Fitri in Indonesian, and we've celebrated it here in Bandung. Many people went to their village, what you call mudik. In the Jakarta Post is translated as exodus, but it's really a biblical term, but people leaving their town behind to go and see their relatives, especially the older ones. And this was a special occasion because after 3 years, people finally made the trip to their home village, sometimes on other islands, Sumatra or Flores or wherever. But you're safe in Bojonegoro. Most of you come from there, and most of your relatives are based in East. So you didn't have to go very far. You didn't have to cross 3 provinces or something. So I'm happy everybody looks healthy here. I had an accident while playing badminton just before the holiday. I slipped and I fell on my leg, so it had to heal for the past few weeks. So we couldn't make it last week. I'm sorry. Maaf ya, kemarin hari Minggu yang lalu saya belum sembuh, tapi sekarang sudah baik-baik saja. So today we're going to focus on vocabulary, kosakata, because it's very important for your paper to use the right words for the right context. So we're going to practice this. It's also important that when you have certain keywords you're going to use again and again, that you learn to vary your vocabulary. Bervariasi, memvariasikan. So you use one word and then you try a synonym, what we call a synonym. So another word with the same meaning. Okay, everybody knows synonym, right? And for this, you can use online dictionaries like Collins CoBuild. I'll send you a link later on, where you use the thesaurus. Thesaurus. Thesaurus gives you the alternative way. So if you have one word and you don't want to keep using it all the time, it would be boring for your reader, for your editor, for your lecturer, you have other alternatives, all right? So for instance, if in your paper last month I got a paper on chemical engineering, saya mengedit paper tentang teknik kimia, and the writer, the author used menggunakan, the word use, all the time in every paragraph. There's use, I use this, I use that, and so I suggested he would change to an alternative like employ or make use of or utilize, many other words of saying use to avoid repetition. Okay, now to practice this we're going to use an article I wrote myself, and this is about literature. I don't know if you've read any Shakespeare or if you've watched it on YouTube. There are many modern versions of Shakespeare. For instance, the famous play about the Scottish king Macbeth is now available in a version called Macchef. So it's set in a restaurant, a different setting, but the same story. Another famous example is Romeo and Juliet, about two people in love and two gangs, was made into a musical, West Side Story, by a composer, Leonard Bernstein, and so on. So there's many different versions of Shakespeare, but originally, if you go back in time, Shakespeare wrote 4 centuries ago, 4 abad yang lalu, ya. So the language has changed, some of the symbols are not so clear anymore, a lot has happened to English in those over this period of time. Now, I did research into the identity of Shakespeare. So the title of my essay or my paper is here, What's in a Name? And I published it in a magazine run by Unpar, Parayangan Campus magazine. So what's in a name? What meaning is maybe hidden behind the name? Because writers, of course, have a real name, but sometimes they use a pen name or pseudonym. Jadi kadang-kadang pakai nama palsu, ya, nama buatan. Like in music in Indonesia, we have Rhoma Irama, or people like Johnny Iskandar and so on. Maybe it's not their real name, but they use it for as nama artis. Now, the same goes for writers who may use a false name to hide their identity. Now, my theory is that Shakespeare was not the man from a small village. Jadi, citra Shakespeare kan berasal dari desa kecil ya, pedesaan Stratford-on-Avon. His parents were illiterate, tidak bisa membaca atau menulis, buta huruf ya. And his children were also illiterate. He did not leave any books, he did not leave any letters, correspondence. And when he died, nobody mentioned it at court, although his plays were popular at court. Now, this all led me to investigate what really was going on here. So let's read the beginning here. I hope everybody can see it. You can read along. I'll read it out for you slowly. So just get the main points here out in the open here. The title is What's in a Name, and the subtitle is The Aristocrat, Priyayi, Behind Shakespeare's Claim to Fame. Okay, the legendary man from Stratford, so Stratford was the little village he came from, his social and educational background has always seemed at odds with the vast cosmopolitan knowledge, wisdom, and elegant wit displayed in Shakespeare plays and poetry. Decoding, so when you have a secret language, you try to find the key to it, you decode it. Decoding Sonnet 76, a sonnet is a poem, may solve the centuries-old mystery that has been puzzling writers, academics, and the general reader. And it's written by me, Frank Landsman. You see me in the picture playing my guitar. Let's read the beginning. At first glance, sekilas mata, celebrities such as the American novelist Henry James, the pioneer of psychoanalysis Sigmund Freud, and the tragicomic movie star and director Sir Charles Chaplin, or Charlie Chaplin with a little moustache, seem to have little or nothing in common, except perhaps for their admirable powers of imagination and daring experimentalism. Yet they all agreed that there was something decidedly fishy about a grain merchant, Shakespeare, from the provincial backwater of Stratford-on-Avon, named Shakespeare, so it's different spelling actually, whose parents and offspring were illiterate, you remember, buta huruf, who left no books or correspondence, who neither possessed any inside knowledge of courtly life, etiquette, and wit, nor mastered the 8 languages displayed in the Shakespearean comedies and poetry admired the world over. Having earned such praise as the greatest literary genius that ever lived. So a lot of information in one paragraph. We haven't even finished here, but it gives you the background. I'm not the first to question Shakespeare's identity. Long before me, from let's say a century ago, many famous people already put a question mark behind Shakespeare's name. That could it really be a man from a small village, basically uneducated? The plays, there are 8 languages used. That is the contrast. We see wit, is a kind of humor, very sophisticated humor. Jadi ada rasa humor yang verbal di semua karya Shakespeare. And you don't associate that with a grain merchant from a small village. There's also knowledge about etiquette, what you call sopan santun. Jadi misalnya ada orang, let me think of a small village like orang Semanding ya, dekat termasuk Tuban. Orang Semanding yang tiba-tiba menulis tentang cara hidup di Keraton Yogyakarta. You will be very surprised. How did he know the lifestyle of aristocrats around the Sultan, or about Solo, about this, all the lifestyle, the literary language, all the background knowledge? There'll be a big surprise if people saw this. So you must have some kind of background to be able to do this. So this is my starting point, that we feel curiga, we feel suspicious about such a small town guy who really didn't have the background to write the poetry and plays we know from Shakespeare. Okay, there's also a portrait of Shakespeare, a kind of drawing made by a Dutchman called Droeshout, and that's also very strange. It's raised countless eyebrows, made people very surprised. Why? It closely resembles a famous painting of Queen Elizabeth I, who was queen then. And it seems to be wearing a mask. So you see a line here across his chin all the way around, as if somebody put a mask on the real face. Pakai topeng. And another thing is that the facial expression is that of a drooling dullard. A dullard is a orang tolol, orang yang tidak intelek, ya, orang kurang main otaknya. And so you would not expect this of a bright man of letters. The psychiatrist Freud suggested that the man from Stratford has nothing at all to justify his claim, whereas a new candidate, Edward de Vere, 17th Earl of Oxford, so a nobleman, a priai, has almost everything. He's got the right background, he knows about music, about languages, he's traveled all over Europe, although Shakespeare never left England. He knows about the Danish court in Hamlet, Prince of Denmark. He knows about all the background that is necessary. He knows Latin and Greek, the classical languages, so it's complete. Who has written about this Edward de Vere? It's an English schoolmaster called J. Thomas Looney. Actually, you pronounce Loney, which make people laugh because Looney means crazy, orang gila. In the past, people thought that crazy people were always staring at the moon, selalu melihat bulan, ya, because they were disturbed. And so Luna is moon, so Looney has this. He published an elaborate study in 1920 to prove that this aristocrat must have been the man behind the Bard of Avon's works of literature, providing various reasons why he should have resorted to a pseudonym, so a false name, to cover himself. Again, like wearing a mask. You don't use your real name, people might recognize it, but you use a pen name. So he took the identity of this villager, Shakespeare. All right. Lord Oxford was very musical. He knew about lute playing and so on, the composition. He wrote poetry and comedies as well. He had visited all the countries that feature in Shakespeare's plays. He held master's degrees, a double S2, double master's MA, both from Oxford and Cambridge at a very young age. He was only 17, he already got a master's degree. And let me see, he spoke many European, and then up, yes, thank you, European languages, and he knew Latin and Greek as well. So the classical language, Bahasa Latin dan Yunani. Other candidates for the real Shakespeare range from Francis Bacon, who was a great scholar and philosopher, ahli filsafat, ya, but one who unfortunately did not have the literary style found in the poetry and drama of Shakespeare. Jadi cara tulisnya yang berbeda, latar belakangnya cocok. And another candidate is the playwright, so writer of drama, of comedy and tragedy, Christopher Marlowe, but he was murdered, so his life is very short. It would be impossible for him to write everything in 10 years. The academic supporters and laymen, so the people are not experts, unprofessional people, who support the Vere's authorship are called Oxfordians. Those who are in favor of Bacon are known as Baconians, so these are different camps, right? And the Marlowe aficionados, so the fans of Marlowe, are labeled Marlovians. Those who still believe in the traditional, maaf ini salah cetak ya, dua kali, believe in the traditional attribution, they are called Stratfordians, named after his village. And they're all at each other's throats. Ingin saling mencekik, ya, mereka selalu bertengkar. The latter, so the Stratfordians, cannot explain why there's no paper trail, so no books or letters by way of legacy, and why Shakespeare's death attracted no attention at court or among fellow playwrights and poets, their colleagues. Baconians try to juggle with symbolism derived from numerology, so they believe in numerical codes, jadi ada hocus pocus. Rosicrucianism was a sect, and even Freemasonry, so several movements here to somehow cover the fact that their hero wrote in a markedly different style. So the style didn't fit, and he also used a different vocabulary, different kinds of words. So it doesn't really fit if you look at the actual content of the plays and the poems. As a prolific scientist, philosopher, courtier, so at court, a diplomat, essayist, historian, and successful politician, this man was great at multitasking. He served in different functions, pejabat tinggi dia ya, solicitor general, attorney general, lord chancellor. When on earth, kapankah ya, would Sir Francis Bacon have found the time to imagine, conceive, create and write the complete works of Shakespeare? That would be impossible. So my money is on Edward de Vere. And now, how did I find out? This next paragraph. My own recent discovery is more straightforward, lebih terus terang ya, and verifiable. You can check it. It's not just a matter of bluffing or saying this is my theory, but you can actually check it in the text, as you can find out for yourself. In Shakespeare's Sonnet 76, or one of his poems, the central poem in a 100 sonnet sequence within the 154 sonnets, the poet reveals himself in the middle of the poem, as discovered by Dr. James Ferris, one of the researchers. It says, "My name, L.O.E. de Vere," where L.O.E. stands for Lord Oxford Edward. So singkatan, yeah, it's an abbreviation. As used in his signature, he would always use L.O.E. de Vere. But I discovered there's more evidence than just the name. If one reads the grill of 14 by 32, so a sonnet has 14 lines, and you make a grill like a grid, and if you read them from bottom to top, jadi dari bawah ke atas, and vice versa, you read it diagonally from right to left, kayak Arabic. The following Elizabethan English text emerges. So you get all these words together. We'll skip the text for a minute, but if you turn it into present-day English, bahasa terkini ya, yang what we use now, if you scroll down a little bit, ke bawah sedikit ya, this might be rephrased and illustrated as, I know, the second page, the go-getter, career woman who married the Italian Earl, because Edward de Vere's nickname was the Italian Earl thanks to his imported fashions. Dia bawa pakaian terbaru ya, terkeren dari Italy, and perfumes from Italy in London by way of revenge. Dia membalas dendam, living in dire straits, living in bad circumstances, because he earned no more revenue from the tin mines from Elizabeth. So all aristocrats got some kind of pocket money, but that was not enough from the Queen. Dapat uang saku dari Ratu Elizabeth yang pertama ya. It's only a fifth of what he required, hanya seperlima dari kebutuhannya. Then you get even more. So if you look at the right of the picture, you see the poem in the grid. You see like a crossword puzzle ya, seperti teka-teki silang ini. And you see in red, you see marked all the words that appear when you read them in a different way. So from right to left, from bottom to top, diagonally, any way you like. And you get all these words that have to do with his life. Now that cannot be a coincidence. Tidak mungkin secara kebetulan ya. If you take any text, you can find words that way, but not so many, and every word related to his life, to what he'd experienced in his life. So you get another paragraph, Leo's notions, and so on till the end. Now, there's a commentator, Claire Asquith, observed late 16th century England, so the time of Shakespeare, was a country that provided a ready audience for dissident code. people were addicted to hidden meanings. They like to write in kind of coded writing, special hidden messages. Bahasa rahasia, you call this. Codes, devices, and punning allusions, wordplay, like in East Java, you like plesetannya, permainan kata-kata. These were everywhere, in street songs and ballads, in conversations, so people made jokes, especially at court. This is part of their humor. In poems, in plays, in woodcuts, in portraits, even in jewelry and costumes, you get this kind of playful approach to hide things. Entire buildings were constructed in the form of riddles, teka-teki, and readers delighted in decoding, finding what's behind the secret code. So it's part of the culture. So it's nothing surprising, really, if you find this in Shakespeare poetry. But here it leads you to his identity. All right? Down a little bit. Yeah, here we see the cover page of his sonnets, and that's another clue where if you count the here the decoded sequence in the dedication to Shakespeare's sonnets, somebody else found this, David Moffat, is based on the 6-2-4 sequence. So 6 lines, then 2 lines, and then 4 lines. And this also symbolized the name of Edward de Vere. You get 6 letters, 2 letters, and 4 letters. And if you decode it again, you get the phrase, these all by E. Ver. Ver was the old French name of the Vere. Ver is truth in French. And so you get all these codes. Here you see the pictures right next to or beside the paragraph. At the top left, you see Edward de Vere. On the right, top right, you see Bacon. Middle, in black and white, you see the engraving, the drawing of Shakespeare, Man from the Village. And we see Marlowe in the left corner down. And I think, who else is there? Another picture of Francis Bacon. These are all the candidates, but my money, as I said, is on my bottom dollar is on Edward de Vere because in every way. I went to Holland after writing this, my native country, and I discussed it with my brother who'd written a book on kebetulan, on what we call chance or coincidence, and he thought this was purely coincidental, but later on he changed his mind with that there's so many examples, there must be something behind it. Okay, now let's look at the vocabulary. So you can maybe minimize this or close it doesn't matter. I want to go to page 37 of the practice materials, and we're going to look at the vocabulary kosakata used in this article and see if you can rephrase it or find synonyms for this. So you can maybe minimize this or put it away and open the practice materials on page 37, halaman 37, and we can read the exercise there. We can try it together, okay?
This one?
Yeah, so if you close this one, the PDF, and you go to the practice materials I sent you and go to page 37. Jadi ini ditutup aja, Mbak.
Okay.
So I don't think you can keep two files at the same time. Jadi share screen dengan yang, yeah, that's it, very good. Perfect, yeah, very quick. Angkat topi saya. Very good. So if can you enlarge it? Yeah, that's it. From the top.
Wait.
Yeah, that's it. Perfect. And now from the top, from the first word. At odds with.
This one?
Odds, yeah, that's one. Okay. Could you enlarge it? So yang
PDF?
di 4 yang di atas, di samping close itu. Ini kan versi kecil ya. Bentar. Yang ini di atas.
Oh, this one, ini di atas. Wait.
Yang saya tunjukin dengan panah ya, ini. Just click on the
sir.
Yang ini. Samping silang. Yeah, that's it. Very good. And then maybe a little bit smaller. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay. The instructions here are very simple. Examine the vocabulary items derived from the article. Yeah, if you go down, scroll down. Yeah, okay. From the article mentioned, sorry, too much. A little bit up. Up a little bit. Ke atas sedikit ya.
This one?
Okay, anyway, I'll read it. Yeah, there are three options. So for every word, I picked out the difficult words or the words you may be unfamiliar with. And you have to choose whether the best synonym or the way to rephrase the word is A, B, or C. Only one answer can be correct. So you cannot fill in, A and C or B and A. Only one is correct. The first one is from the beginning, the opening paragraph. At odds, or in combination at odds with, which one? So over to the students, yeah, they can select. How would you rephrase at odds? What's a good synonym if you looked it up in a dictionary or in the thesaurus, like Collins Co-Build? Which one would be the best way of giving a definition here of at odds? In agreement, in conflict, or even numbered? Any of the students?
At all.
Yeah.
Everyone?
Yep.
Can you
Anyone?
guess?
Only one answer is possible. A, B, or C. Yeah, feel free. Just give it a try.
Yes, Sandy?
If it's difficult, ask yourself, is it positive or negative?
It is positive or negative, everyone? What do you think at all?
So if we say all the knowledge in the Shakespeare plays is at
Naila?
odds with what we know about the writer from a small village, uneducated, his parents were illiterate, his children were illiterate, there's no correspondence, and so on. So you say these two things are at odds. Is it negative or positive?
Negative?
Yeah.
Yeah, Naila? Yeah, Naila, come on.
Negative, sir.
Yeah. So you choose A, B, or C?
B.
B, correct. In conflict. So when you say something is at odds with the conditions or the background, you say you don't expect this. It's different. It's the opposite you would expect. Yeah. So in conflict. Very good. Even numbered, maybe in a different context. When you say the odd semester, it's semester 1 and 3 and 5 and so on. That's different. In agreement would be the opposite, what we call antonym. So when you study vocabulary, you have a synonym, the same meaning, and an antonym, A-N-T-O, and the opposite meaning. Okay. Second word used in the article, it's in the same order, yeah, so from the beginning until the end. This was still in the same paragraph. Vast, or Americans say vast, it has to do with size. Which one? If you say, I have a vast amount of money in the bank, or the Sultan of Yogyakarta has a vast collection of antique furniture, for instance, or paintings. It has to do with size.
Yeah, others? Come on, let's guess it.
I'm making it easy for you because I gave you a hint, a clue.
Blue?
What do you think, A, B, or C?
A, maybe.
You think C?
A.
A, yeah, A is correct. Enormous, very big, vast, enormous, huge. So in size, yeah, usually, or in number. Yeah, valueless would be the opposite, worth nothing. And observing the fasting month, ada yang mirip ya. Kalau mirip biasanya menarik perhatian tapi tidak benar. What we call the Mickey Mouse answer. Jawaban Mickey tikus karena Mickey tikus tidak muncul di sini. Ini konteksnya bukan bulan Ramadan ya, bulan puasa. Tapi mungkin masih teringat dengan masa itu. Jadi it looks almost similar fasting, fast, but there's nothing to do with it. Be careful when you take a TOEFL test or an IELTS test. You always get these distractors yang menarik perhatian tapi tidak relevan sama sekali. Hati-hati. Okay, little trick for you. Number 3, cosmopolitan. We know the word cosmos. We know the word politics. We know the word politician. Now let's find the meaning of cosmopolitan. An adjective, kata sifat ini. Is it A, global, B, politically flavored, or C, ready for departure to Mars? Like Elon Musk is inviting us human beings to move to Mars, where he has a human colony or a human settlement to start a new life. You know, Elon Musk, the richest billionaire in America, is planning to do this within 5 or 10 years. So which one? Cosmopolitan. So we know that the writer of Shakespeare's plays and poetry was very cosmopolitan. What does that mean? He used 8 languages. He traveled all over Europe. In my case, or in my theory, Edward de Vere, the aristocrat. Jadi menurut saya orang priai ya yang sempat mengelilingi Eropa. A, ya, global is correct. Cosmopolitan has to do with being aware of world culture. So if you only like the music of Kus Plus from Tuban, you have a local taste. But if you like global music, you know music from Korea, from Japan, from America, from Europe. Professor Agus had a combination. He had both global and cosmopolitan taste, the biggest cassette collection I've ever seen. So he knew about all kinds of music. I don't know if he's joined yet. Anyway, so global, yeah. Politically flavored, well, politics, it looks like cosmopolitan, ya, mirip lagi. And ready for departure to Mars, well, if you enter the cosmos, the universe, then of course you're on your way to Mars. But again, it's a distractor, hanya menarik perhatian, ya, tidak relevan. So, global. Number 4, wit. This is also part of the courtly tradition. Jadi yang di sekitar Ratu Elizabeth yang pertama itu suka humor. What kind of humor? What do you think wit is here? A, B, or C? Is it dull? Is it accompanied? Or verbal, intellectual humor? Jadi banyolan yang halus ya, yang penuh permainan kata-kata. What do you think? Yeah, C is correct. Verbal or intellectual humor. You often see among intellectuals like legal experts or people who've read a lot of books, they make jokes based on wordplay. And this was very much part of the tradition at court around Elizabeth, who liked this kind of humor herself, so she was not offended. She also had a clown, what we call the court jester. Ada semacam pelawak ya, badut, who would entertain her, and he would also make jokes in songs and in comedy plays and so on. Interesting tradition. Number 5, puzzling. We all know about puzzles, teka-teki, but what does it mean here? Puzzling. So this may be puzzling to modern readers. Is it smart, confusing, or filling in Sudoku or crosswords? Puzzling. It's an adjective. It could be a verb as well. This is puzzling us.
Confusing.
Yeah, confusing. Very good. Smart, if you can solve the puzzle, then you're smart. If you can do the katakiti sila. Some people say if you fill in a crossword puzzle, if you're into language, or if you fill in a Sudoku, if you like numbers, if you're a mathematician, you know, it helps your brain stay young. So if you're getting older, you do one crossword or one Sudoku a day, you will not get penyakit pikun, you will not become absent-minded or get Alzheimer's disease and so on. So it's very good investment. I see a lot of Indonesians filling in these little booklets full of crosswords. On every bus station here in Bandung, there's always somebody doing the crosswords. Very good investment in your mental health. Okay, number 6, fishy. So the famous people like Charlie Chaplin and the psychologist Sigmund Freud and writer like novelist Henry James, they all thought there was something fishy about a small town man, a villager basically, who was uneducated, having written the works of Shakespeare, such a brilliant writer. How is that possible? Something fishy. Which one? A, suspicious. B, smelling like fish. Or C, reliable. Very good. Suspicious. You're getting faster here on the trigger. Smelling like fish. Well, if you pick up a newspaper and it's fishy, it smells like fish. That's possible because in England they put fish and chips into a newspaper to sell it. The English tradition. So that's a literal meaning. But here, fishy has more of a symbolic meaning. It looks suspicious. Mencurigakan, yeah. Makes you wonder if it's possible. Reliable is a different context. I want a reliable service. Yang handal, yeah, that's different. Backwater, maybe you've never heard before. It's a kind of special word. Did he come from a backwater or did he come from London, from the big city? Which one is correct? Backwater. Crowded metropolis, a sleepy, isolated town like Samanding, I'm thinking of, or returning aqua gallons, these 20 liter. But yeah, a sleepy, isolated town. Very good. B is correct. A is the opposite, antonym, you remember, kata lawannya. And C is just a funny wordplay because if you hand back your water, you can be returning aqua, but that's not what we're talking about. Okay, so it's a kind of literal translation. Give me back my water, return my water. Okay, number 8. Down, please. Yes. Offspring. Shakespeare's parents could not read or write. His offspring had no books, they had no intellectual life. So, what are offspring when you use it in a context? Rather formal word. Do you have any offspring? What is offspring? A, B, or C? Descendants, out of order, or light switch? So we're talking about several generations, yeah? Shakespeare's parents and his children. So 3 generations. And we're talking about offspring. Turunan, ya, bahasa Indonesianya. Maybe formal word. Agak ya bahasanya. A, descendants. Yeah, descendants are people who come after you. So your children, your grandchildren, cucu, cicit is great grandchildren, and so on. Nothing to do with switching off a light or out of order. That's different. Okay, illiterate we already came across because people who cannot read or write, buta huruf, yeah. So B. Unable to read and write, we covered many times. And in Shakespeare's case, the unique thing about it was his parents were illiterate, B, unable to read and write, and his children were also illiterate. He did not leave behind any books or letters or anything that would make you think, oh, this is a real writer. Okay, C is different. It's the opposite of illiterate, erudite, or very learned, sangat terpelajar, like Pak Agus Wardono. Professor Agus Wardono knows a lot about English and Indonesian and culture and music, very erudite. Yeah? That's the opposite, sangat terpelajar. Number 10 is courtly. We all know the court around a sultan or a king or a queen. Nowadays we have King Charles III, and he has a tradition of courtly manners or courtly tradition or courtly entertainment. People are going to sing for him when he is officially coronated, and so on. So what do you think courtly means here? A, aristocratic, priai. B, like a tennis player. Or C, quite rude, yang tidak sopan, ya? Kasar, bahasa Indonesia. Which one? We're talking about the court around the king or queen or sultan or, an emperor, any kind of high-placed person, what you call blue-blooded, yeah, yang berdarah biru. Courtly. Which one?
A.
Yeah, A is correct. Aristocratic. priai, bersifat priai. So at court there was a whole tradition of how to behave, how to speak. For instance, until now, you're not supposed to ask the king or queen any questions. He or she will do that for you, but we're not, as the general public, we're not supposed to do that. In some countries, you have to stare down at the floor. You may not look up to the king or queen, and so on. As part of courtly, the next word is etiquette. Sopan santunnya bahasa Indonesianya. Which one? Displaying nervous tics, like twitching your eyes. B, proper behavior and refined manners, or based on a questionnaire. There's QUE, etiquette questionnaire. B is correct, yes. Proper behavior and refined manners. Jadi sopan santun yang halus, ya. Not based on a questionnaire, it's just the one drawing attention here. Number 12, an expression in English. The news raised a few eyebrows, or the news raised an eyebrow. I heard that a famous celebrity here in Indonesia, or just a celebrity, is all famous, was divorced by her husband via WhatsApp. Now, that would raise an eyebrow among elderly people, because in the past you'd have to do it differently in a court of law or an Islamic court. But this was done via WhatsApp. What's her name again? Mirsani? Saya lupa. Ada selebriti yang diceraikan lewat WhatsApp, ya. Now, that raised an eyebrow. What does that mean? You raise an eyebrow, or you make people raise their eyebrows, cause great surprise, pay a higher salary, or use eye makeup. Which one? Sampai alis mata ke atas, ya, naik. Ada istilah Indonesia enggak? Saya nggak tahu. A, yeah, cause great surprise is correct. So the news raised an eyebrow, made people feel surprised. Their eyebrows went up in surprise. Body language. Okay, we talked about dullard in the portrait of Shakespeare, the engraving. He looked like a stupid person. Where do we find the stupid person here? A, B, or C? So dull is the opposite of sharp. If you're sharp-minded, then you're fine. But if you're a dullard, there's no hope. Tidak akan naik kelas, ya. Kalau tidak punya otak. Which one?
C.
Yeah, C, a blockhead or dimwit. These are kind of slang terms, because dullard is a little bit old-fashioned. It's a kind of bahasa kuno, ya, tapi sekarang blockhead or dimwit. The opposite is A, antonym, kata lawannya, the brightest bulb in the socket, meaning sangat cerdas, ya, sangat pintar, the brightest bulb in the socket. Minor blizzard is maybe dullard, blizzard, mirip, ya, but not relevant, irrelevant. Number 14, elaborate. Is it detailed or complex? Complex. Is it research at a laboratory? We've got lab, yeah, L-A-B. Or C, uninteresting. When you make an elaborate study of batik in Indonesia. Like we had a friend in Tuban, a Dutch lady who wrote the history of batik. She interviewed all kinds of old ladies who would sing songs about how to make batik. Very interesting. And she wrote an elaborate study. A is correct. Yes, very good. You know it from the context, yeah? Detailed or complex. The others are misleading. Uninteresting would be the opposite. Pseudonym, we talked about false names or nama artis, kayak Roma Irama. That's not in his passport, I don't think. It's not in his KTP. It's not his real name, but it's his musical sounding name. Yeah? Roma Irama, it's a kind of fun name to use as a musician, as the king of dangdut. So pseudonym, you don't pronounce the P, just pseudonym. Is it clothes hanger, pen name, or internet scam? Which one?
Which one?
A, B, C, A, B, or C?
A, B, or C? Yeah, everyone?
Pseudonym. So you're not using your real name, but a made-up name. what we call a pen name, ya. B is correct. A pen name. Kalau di dunia hiburan mungkin nama artis juga ya. So pseudonym, you use a false name to protect yourself or to use a mask in a sense, ya, sebagai topeng. Okay, next word, layman. Number 16. Yeah. Is it a sleeper? When you're lying down, you lie in bed, you lay. Sleeper, non-expert, or bricklayer? When you're laying bricks, you go batu merah, yeah. To make a building, you do cement, brick, cement, brick. Which one? You're talking about professional researchers, but also laymen. So which one? If you're a layman. Nothing to do with sleeping.
Correct, maybe. A and B. A.
Yeah, B is correct. Non-expert. So somebody.
Expert, maybe.
Yeah, B is correct. Like an amatir, yang tidak profesional. Tapi ikut berpendapat mungkin tentang Shakespeare. So in England, there's many literary experts who write about Shakespeare, but also people from the general public who find this interesting. These are the non-experts or laymen. Okay. Also in law, you have people who know everything about the law and people who just have an opinion about the law. And both, in a democratic country like Indonesia, both can express their opinions. Okay. At somebody's throat. Throat is leher, ya, kayak saling mencekik gitu. It's an expression, idiom in English, idiomatic expression, istilah. What does it mean? So all these camps, people supporting Shakespeare, the Stratfordians, people supporting Bacon, Francis Bacon, people think who is Christopher Marlowe. These are all at each other's throat. And the expression at somebody's throat, what does it mean? Selalu bertengkar.
A.
Yes, arguing angrily. So that may not be killing each other, but almost very aggressive. Even when I published the video, I made a video of this article on YouTube. I got somebody calling me crazy and so on. So I closed the comments because people are banyak yang mudah tersinggung, ya. And don't forget, they're making a lot of money in Stratford, in the original village, because there's a Shakespeare museum. You can buy all kinds of books, postcards, mugs, anything is a big industry. So if you claim it's somebody else, they're wasting their time, then people may get angry. So here at somebody's throat is arguing angry. The opposite is smoking the pipe of peace, when you make the peace, yeah, so dame, and coughing loudly. Well, when you cough, it comes from your throat. But that's a literal meaning of throat and nothing to do with this context of people arguing all the time. Selalu bertengkar. Okay, latter. When you talk in an essay, we often see the former and the latter. The first mentioned and the last mentioned. So here, B is correct. The last mentioned. Yeah, the latter meaning the one I just mentioned, yang tersebut, ya, yang tadi saya sebutkan, is last mentioned. So the latter is last mentioned, and the former, F-O-R-M-A-R, would be the first mentioned. Often used to replace words. Very handy way of avoiding repetition. Unmentioned is yang tidak. Beda lagi, ya. Okay, number 9 is finished. Markedly. These are markedly different. What is A, B, or C? I hear Japanese.
Zakia. Which one, Zakia?
Apa ya, nyata? Receiving A.
Jadi ada dua teori yang jelas berbeda, ya, markedly different.
B. Showing a birthmark or aku sure.
No, showing a birthmark ada kayak flek hitam, itu di luar konteks.
Oh, berarti A.
No, not receiving marks. It's C, obviously. Jelas berbeda. Markedly different is jelas berbeda. Like as if there's a mark on the page. Yeah, Coba dicari nanti ya di kamus. Prolific, if you say a writer, some writers write one novel or one play and then they dry up, they are no longer productive. But a prolific writer keeps writing, does a lot of different things. Every year there's a new novel coming out or a new kind of publication. Researchers can be very prolific. I think Professor Agus is a prolific researcher, writes every 3 weeks, every month there's a new paper. So prolific is positive. Which one? A, B, or C?
Productive.
Yeah, productive is correct. Proletarian has to do with like factory workers, pekerja kasar, yeah. It's a proletariat, it's a Marxist term, and fruitless is when nothing is coming out of the discussion was fruitless. Nothing was concluded. There were no solutions. Tanpa buah-buah, istilahnya tidak berbuah. Number 21, verifiable. Is that provable? Light green or green light? Lampu merah, lampu hijau. If you say my theory is verifiable, you can verify it, you can check it.
Green light.
A, B, or C?
C. C maybe.
Green light? No, you're talking about traffic. You're standing in front of the traffic light and the light is green. You can drive or you can walk. But A is correct, provable. When you can verify something, you can prove it. So I'm not saying, my theory is just an idea and maybe right, maybe wrong. No, you can check it in the poem. You can do it for yourself. If you read from right to left, from bottom to top, diagonally, secara miring, you will find all these words. It's not just because I say so. I'm not forcing the theory down your throat, but it's provable, it's verifiable. In fact, all research, if you look at it in a general context, must be verifiable, must be provable. It's not, you can't just say, well, because my name is Frank Landsman, you better believe me, but it must be proven. Okay, 22, in dire straits. So we're talking about the aristocrat's financial situation. Yeah, he is relying on pocket money from the Queen, dapat uang saku dari Ratu Elizabeth yang pertama. And he was not getting enough, only 1/5, yeah, hanya dapat 1/5. He was in dire straits. Which one? It must be negative, right?
In great trouble.
Yeah, C. In great trouble. Very good. C. Okay, 2 more to go because we got 24 items in the vocabulary list. 23, dissident. Is that disagreeing, harmonizing, or a side dish? Like when you're eating steak or a hamburger, you get a side dish like salad or mushrooms or whatever, broccoli, side dish. Which one fits? Dissident.
A.
A is correct. Disagreeing. Yeah, disagreeing or being very different. You disagree with the general thing. I noticed that on Facebook you can't say everything you like. If you're really dissident, people will send you a message saying, this is not part of our community guidelines or our community rules. You get a letter from what's his name, Mark Zuckerberg, saying this goes against Facebook policy and so on. For instance, when there was the vaccination problem, you had in America and also in Europe, the anti-vaxxers, people who said, if you take the vaccination against the coronavirus, you fall ill because it contains poison. Ada yang punya teori yang anti-vaksinasi karena mengandung racun. But that's true for all vaccinations. All vaccinations give you the symptoms of the disease. So you get fever or keringat dingin, you get a cold sweat and so on. But these are called the dissidents. People who are against the general rules. Like in America, everybody had to be vaccinated. And if you disagree, you are a dissident. Okay, that's the context. Number 24, illustrious. This was about the family the Vere, which goes back centuries, very ancient French family that went to England in the Norman conquest, 1066, and has been until now. I think there's still descendants. Remember the offspring. We still have people. De Vere actually sent this article to the one who's still alive, the great grandson of this Edward de Vere, and he liked it. He thought it was possible. So illustrious refers to being well known, being which one? A, B, or C? Using pictures like illustration. Yeah, B, prominent. Very good. Prominent. Yeah, B. C is the opposite. Antonym is negligible, is yang tidak dianggap serius, yang tidak penting. But prominent means important, well-known, well appreciated by everybody. So if your name is De Vere, everybody will say, oh, yes, a famous family, De Vere. Okay, so illustrious here is prominent. Excellent. We've done 24 items. And this will help you to look at the essay if you want to read it again. And maybe later I want to ask you to write an abstract so for every paragraph in the article, I want you to write 1 or 2 sentences to summarize, to make a summary of what you read. And that way you can make an abstract, okay? How much time do we have left today? Masih ada berapa waktu ini? Tinggal berapa waktu? You think we can do one more exercise, or do you want to?
Ya, maghribnya jam maybe 5:15 we can end, Mr. Frank.
Yes, okay. So how much time do you have left?
20 minutes, around 20 minutes.
Okay, good. We can do this one. And maybe next time we'll do the abstract, okay? Here's one text. Thank you. There is one text about a famous person, Michel, a Frenchman, Michel Nostradamus, and he lived in the 16th century, so just before Shakespeare. He was a French physician, so not physicist, but physician, a doctor, and astrologer. So nowadays we still have astronomy you can study at university, knowledge of planets and stars and so on. But astrology was also taken very seriously in those days because you could study it at university. It was seen as an academic discipline and people did a lot of research into it. Even somebody like Newton believed in astrology, apart from astronomy. So astrology is what we call the zodiac signs. I was born in January, so I'm a Capricorn, and so on. People nowadays usually see it as entertainment, something you read in a magazine, and it may predict your future or the best job for you or the partner that fits you and so on, but it's not really studied at university anymore. But in those days, in the 16th century here, it was a profession. If you were an astrologer, you can make a lot of money, but he was also a doctor, a physician. His modern followers see him as a prophet and some of his patients and clients as a miracle worker, so he could work miracles, keajaiban. His prophecies have a magical quality for those who study them. So he made prophecies about the future many centuries ahead of him. So he would describe somebody like Hitler, 4 centuries onwards and so on. They are muddled and obscure before the predicted event, but somehow they become crystal clear after the event has occurred. So when something happens, people look back and say, oh, this guy Nostradamus actually predicted this. Sudah ada prakiraan dari beliau 4 abad yang lalu. But that's looking back, what we call in hindsight, when you look back on it. After the terrorist skyjackings and attacks in the United States on September 11, 2001, a rumor was spread, jadi kata orang that Nostradamus had predicted them. The following quatrain was offered as proof. So Nostradamus wrote in poetry, and so his predictions looked like poems. Here was what he predicted. In the new city of York, there will be a great collapse. Two twin brothers torn apart by chaos, kekacauan, while the fortress fills the great leader, while the fortress falls, the great leader will succumb, will fall. Down. Yes, the last line of the quatrain is, the third big war will begin when the big city is burning. Now, this is amazing. It's written in the 16th century and referring to something that happened 4 centuries later in 2001. Now, here we get the namun demikian, however, the big but. However, this turned out to have been written in 1997, so still before the Twin Tower attack, by one Neil Marshall, a Canadian student. Marshall wanted to demonstrate that the writings of Nostradamus are so cryptic that they can be interpreted to mean almost anything. If we have some imagination, we can shoehorn just about any event to some passage in Nostradamus, or to lyrics by the American songwriter Bob Dylan, for that matter. 2 decades before the 9/11 attack, so on the 11th of September, Dylan wrote a song, so 20 years before that, called Angelina, which is as clear a prediction as anything Nostradamus wrote, rearranged as follows. So here we have part of a song written by Bob Dylan 20 years before what happened at the Twin Towers in New York in 2001. In the Valley of the Giants, where the stars and stripes explode, there's a black Mercedes, rolling through the combat zone. Your servants are half dead, they're down to the bone. Tell me, tall men, where would you like to be overthrown? I see pieces of men marching, trying to take heaven by force. I can see the unknown rider. I can see the pale white horse. In God's truth, tell me what you want, and you'll have it, of course. Just step into the arena. Beat a path of retreat up those spiral staircases. Past the tree of smoke, past the angel with 4 faces, begging God for mercy and weeping in unholy places. So this is more serious than just a love song. He predicted something. Okay, I want to look at the vocabulary first. Nostradamus was described as an astrologer, but he had one other job, physician. It refers to somebody who has studied which of the following? A, architecture, B, medicine, C, physics, or D, physical education or sports, PE, physical olahraga. Which one?
Everyone?
So if you're a physician, what have you studied? Latar belakang akademisnya apa? Architecture, medicine, physics, or physical education? So Nostradamus had 2 jobs, official jobs.
Yeah, Sandy?
Medicine?
Yeah,
B.
very, very good. If you study to be a doctor, you take what you call kedokteran, yeah, in Indonesian. You study medicine. And that was his second job. He was an astrologer, but also a physician, a doctor, medical doctor. Okay, very good. A reference question here, or no, more about the vocabulary, sorry. How does adding crystal to the adjective clear modify its meaning? So if you say something is not just clear, but crystal clear, how does it change the meaning of clear? Does it ridicule? Does it make fun of it? Does it understate, so you make it less? Does it weaken it, make it less strong? Or does it intensify, it makes the meaning stronger? A, B, C, or D? So if your lecturer has finished and you say, he asks you or she asks you, was this all clear, students? And one raises his hand and says, crystal clear. Is that a compliment, or is it not so clear? Is it still needs explanation, or is it confusing, or do you make fun of it? Which one? Crystal clear. Sejelas kristal. Which one? How does it change the meaning of clear?
Understate.
Sorry? Understate? No. Understate meaning it makes it less clear. So if you say it's rather clear, it's not completely clear, but ya agak jelas tapi belum 100%, ya. That's an understatement. If you say Einstein was rather bright, cukup cerdas, it's understating. He was a genius. Okay, so be careful. Understatement means less. And the same goes for weakens. It makes the meaning less strong. So something else. Jawaban lain, ya?
Intensiveness.
Yeah, intensifies. Very good. D is correct. It makes it stronger. It makes it more intense. So when something is crystal clear, it's very, very clear indeed. All right? Number 3. To which of the following does the personal pronoun them, as used in the opening line of paragraph 2, refer? So if we go back to the text, you can see the cetak tebal, yeah? You can see it bolded. Them in the opening line of paragraph 2. Tolong ke atas sedikit ya ke bagian itu. Jadi paragraf pertama, yeah, that's it, them. So a rumor was spread that Nostradamus had predicted them. What is them? What do we refer to? What's them? Back to the question. Down. So there are 4 choices, yeah? 4 pilihan. Yeah, that's it. So are we referring to the United States of America, the terrorists, skyjackings and attacks? Are we referring to American presidents? Or are we referring to prophets like Nostradamus? What is them?
Terrorist hijacking.
Yeah, very good. B is correct. Yeah. You have predicted these attacks, yeah. Okay, well done. Next question. The adverbial disjunct, jadi kata keterangan, ya, however, namun demikian, is used in the opening line of the paragraph, and it serves to indicate, paragraph 3, similarity, humor, style, or contrast. However, so
Contrast.
yeah, always contrast. Very good. Namun demikian, ya, in Indonesian. Yeah. Namun, excellent. The determiner one is used in the same sentence, so we refer to one Neil Marshall, the Canadian, serves to do what? To introduce a certain person unknown to the author, make fun of a person known to the author, put the author himself in the limelight, so like a spotlight, or does it deny the existence of the person mentioned? Which one? One Neil Marshall.
A. Introduce.
Very good. It introduces a certain person unknown to the author. So he never heard of him before, but one Neil Marshall. Also because it's a common name. There are thousands of Canadians called Neil Marshall, and he is just one of them. So it's a kind of anonymous person, not well known. Okay, very good. Number 6, the adjective cryptic, as used in the next sentence, is most similar in meaning to which of the following? Cryptic. Is it mystifying, clarifying, cleansing, so making clean, or crippling? Clipping is what cacat, if you kick somebody, he becomes a cripple. So it's handicap.
Mystifying.
Yes, very good. Cryptic is mystifying. It turns it into a mystery. Cryptic. In some of the teka-teki books, you find a cryptogram. This is a very difficult crossword puzzle where the definitions are not so clear. It's kind of mysterious. You can win a lot of money if you can fill them in England at least. Okay, number 7. The verb shoehorn, as used in the next sentence, refers to what? So he said, if we have some imagination, dengan daya imajinasi, ya, we can shoehorn just about any event or to some passage in Nostradamus. So anything that happens you can find when you look back to his predictions or his prophecies. So how do we define shoehorn? Shoehorn is actually used to ease your foot into a tight shoe. Jadi kalau sepatu baru misalnya itu agak sempit, kita pakai shoehorn seperti sendok, ya. yang masukkan kaki. So it helps you to do that. Which one? Kalau bahasa Indonesia mungkin mencocokkan ya. Walaupun tidak cocok, dicocokkan.
G. Discarding new ideas to cling to traditional ones.
No, because discarding would be throwing away if you don't consider them serious. It's close. Something else, not D.
B.
Yes, B. B. Fitting something for a specific or new purpose. So you look back to the predictions and you think, oh yeah, that's just like 9/11, or oh yes, that reminds me of World War III coming and so on. So you're looking back, but you're fitting it, dicocokkan ya, walaupun mungkin kebetulan saja. Okay, number 8. Well done. Which of the lyrics taken from the Bob Dylan song coincide best with the image of the 9/11 terrorist attack? Is it the first line, in the valley till explode? Is it the second line, there's a black Mercedes blah 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 zone? In the 6th line, I can see until horse? Or the 8th line, just until arena? So if we look back on the terrorist attack, you know, the aeroplanes flying through the building, the WTC, although some people say it was a trick, it was made in a hologram, because nothing was found of the aeroplane. It's very strange. If one aeroplane from America consists of 1.4 million parts, and every part is marked with U.S. Air Force. Nothing was found afterwards. So some people say it was just a hologram. It's not really true. Anyway, which line fits with the image of the 9/11 terrorist attack? The first line, in the valley till explode. The second, the 6th, or the 8th line? Yeah, the first one, in the valley of the giants, the 2 twin towers are the biggest towers in New York. Giants, yeah, raksasa, where the stars and stripes explode. The stars and stripes is, of course, the American. Apa itu stars and stripes? Referensi kayak di Indonesia sang merah putih.
Yeah.
The stars and stripes refers to the American bendera. Ayo, simbolis ya, the stars and stripes, bendera Amerika, the American flag. So it's symbolic of America. It stands for the country. In the Valley of the Giants, the 2 twin towers where the stars and stripes explode. That's what refers to the 9/11. Okay. 2 more questions, then we'll finish for today. I think we'll do the abstract next week. Number 9, which of the following statements is untrue? Yang tidak benar. Hati-hati ya, negative question. So 3 are correct and 1 is false. It doesn't fit with the text. A, the author is not exactly a follower of Nostradamus. He doesn't really believe in and is not a supporter. B, Nostradamus was an expert in the field of astrology. He was an astrologer. C, the Canadian student Neil Marshall quoted Nostradamus from memory. Jadi dia menghafalkan semua isi buku dan dia kutip ya, dia ambil dari situ. Or D, down. Sedikit ya. Bob Dylan's lyrics can be made to look as prophetic as Nostradamus' writings by sufficiently imaginative people. So if you have a strong or lively imagination, you can fit the lyrics to anything we find in Nostradamus' writings. Okay, which one? A, B, C, or D? Which one is untrue? Jadi 3 yang benar, 1 yang tidak benar. Yang mana yang tidak benar?
One, A, B, C, or D?
Yeah. Which one is wrong? Which one is untrue? According to the text, based on this text. Which one is untrue? If we look at A, the author is not exactly a follower of Nostradamus. It's true, he's critical. He thinks he's skeptical about him. That's true. B, Nostradamus was an expert in the field of astrology. We know he was a physician and an astrologer. True. C, the Canadian student Neil Marshall quoted, so took from the text, Nostradamus from memory. Is that true? Did he memorize the whole book? Yes or no?
Yeah. Apa tadi?
What do you think?
What do you think, guys? C or G?
So D is if you have enough imagination, if you have a lively imagination, you can make Bob Dylan's lyrics look as prophetic as Nostradamus' writings. It just needs a bit of imagination. You can do that. You can be creative, but it may not be true. So what about C? Does it say he memorized all of Nostradamus' writings, like thousands of predictions? No, it doesn't say anywhere. It's not mentioned, so we cannot trust this. C is untrue. The Canadian student did not quote from memory. He just took something from the book he looked up and used it to fit the theory. But it doesn't say he knew everything by heart. Ya, tidak sampai di luar kepala. Okay? The last question is number 10. The author has put the adjective clear in quotation marks in the final paragraph before the song text to indicate what? When you put things into inverted commas, yeah? In quotation marks. Yeah, that's it. Very good. As clear a prediction as anything Nostradamus wrote. What does it do to the word if you put it in between quotation marks or inverted commas? What does that mean?
Yeah, everyone, can you guess? Seriousness, irony, evidence, or G?
So normally you can use quotation marks to quote, so that would be D, the original source, but here it has a different function.
Irony.
Yes, very good. Irony in English, yeah? Irony, it's ironis, it's ironical, meant it's not really clear. It just looks clear, but it's not at all proven. So you can take any song and say, oh, you see, this predicted Indonesian independence, or this predicted the fall of the Mojopahit Empire. You can do anything if you have a lively imagination. That's the point of this article. Okay, so it's one more bit of practice to help you with vocabulary and making sense of text and so on. There's another text below that you can do for homework for next week. PR sedikit ya kalau nggak keberatan. It's about fast food. I don't know if in Bojonegoro you have McDonald's and KFC and all that stuff. It's basically poison, but a lot of people like it. And I heard a story that they make the French fries of potatoes that are very long in America. Now, these long potatoes take a lot of time to produce, and also insects like them. So they put a lot of DDT, or anti-insecticide, on them to protect them, and this is basically poison. For 1 month, even the local farmers don't touch it, or they don't come near it, because it's so dangerous. And this is what we eat when you order French fries in McDonald's, so be very careful with that kind of food. It's also too sweet and too fat and so on. So if you eat that every day, what will happen to you is described here in the article. It's kind of funny as well, amusing. There's a filmmaker, a documentary maker called Morgan Spurlock, and by way of experiment, although his doctor was against it, he had 3 McDonald's meal every day for a few months, I think. And he described what happened to his body, to his mind, to his everything, his lifestyle. And this is from The Observer, an English newspaper. So do this for next week. Read the article. It's called Take 3 Burgers a Day, but don't do it at home. overeating fast food may kill you. So it's an interesting article. I used at Unpar as well, Parahyangan University, and most students stopped eating McDonald's or reduced their intake of fast food after reading this. So it has a health function. So read the article and do the questions. Again, there are 10 questions below the article if you scroll down a little bit. Yeah, so it's a text consisting of several paragraphs, and then you get 10 questions. Vocabulary, and I think this focuses on vocabulary, so no reading comprehension. So to help you with the vocabulary, it goes on. To 20, I think. If you scroll down, yeah, it goes 20 questions, okay? And next, you can read the part at the bottom here, how to write an abstract. These are general ideas of how to do this from the internet. What are you expected to write in your abstract is the main point here. What did you do? Why did you do this study or project? So the background. What did you do and how? Describe the steps of your research. What did you find? Your findings, penemuan. Your conclusions, and also what do your findings mean, and you get some key elements and so on. We'll do next week, okay, based on the article I wrote, What's in a Name. Okay, I think we've done enough for today. If something went too fast or you need to check some of the details, make sure you read it again. Read these materials and make sense of them. Do the a text about fast food for next week, 20 questions focusing on vocabulary to practice rephrasing, saying in other words, finding synonyms and so on. Okay, I hope to see you next week at the same time, 4 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, and thank you for taking part today. You've done very well. I see good progress, banyak kemajuan di sini ya, lebih cepat juga jawabannya. Thank you for the moderators and the people who made this all visible on screen, and I'll see you next time. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Before close, can we
you-
take photo or picture together?
Oh yes, your screenshot. Yes, very good. You remember.
Okay, please everyone turn
Switch
on
on your camera. Ya, hidupkan kamera ya. Webcam. Yes. Everybody appears.
Yeah.
Quite a few, yeah.
Selfie.
Yeah, switch on your camera and we can take a screenshot to prove we've been here in real life, in real time.
Okay, Maya, come on. Turn on your camera, please. Okay.
Titik Sukmawati belum.
Ya, Titi, Zakia, are you there? Jangan ditinggalin. Zakia.
Apa, Miss? Bentar, Miss, bentar. Wait.
Okay. Okay, Yosa, come on. Mbak Gilang, Mbak Niza. Okay. Please, everyone, I will count 1, 2, 3. So, 1, 2, 3. Okay, next slide. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Frank, for
Yes, my
today.
pleasure. Good to see you all again,
Yeah.
and I'll see you next week. Just a little bit of homework, you don't mind, yeah?
Okay,
Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
See you next week. Bye. I'll leave, yeah? Okay, bye-bye. Take care.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining this meeting. See you next week, yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye, Miss. Thank you.